crafters, and welcome back to the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel. My name is Deepa Robbins from Designs by Dee, and I welcome you back. Happy Sunday. So today we're going to be making a fun tone-on-tone shaped frame card. I'm deciding to use some teal today, but you could use any colors you'd like. All you're going to need is the Crafty Meraki Artisan Flora Wreath Builder die. I've got the Marrakech Mosaic hot foil plate. Now that one also has a coordinating die that goes with it. You can use the hot foil plate or the die or both. It's up to you. I'm actually going to be using the hot foil plate to do some embossing. Now the other thing you're going to need is some shaped frames. So you need some dies where you have a bunch of different sizes in a different shape. So I'm using this kind of like rounded rectangle ovally type shape here. And I am taking the largest size, and I'm taking A2 sized white cardstock base, card base, and I'm now going to cut that out to create a shaped card base. So one thing I have to mention is you have to make sure that the top part of your die is not going to cut the folded edge. So it has to kind of hang off just a little bit off the edge, as you can see here. And then you pretty much want to line everything up so that you cut out your shape from the A2 size card so that this card will fit into an A2 sized envelope. Now I'm grabbing two more smaller dies, and they create like a little bit of a frame that's going to go on the inner portion of this card. So all you have to do to cut this out is connect the two dies. I'm just kind of lining them up so I get an evenly, like a frame with an even width, and then I'm adding some washi tape to adhere those together. I'll put those on top of my colored cardstock, and then I'll go ahead and cut all of these out. So I did do the die cutting off screen. You can see that you get that nice frame, and then if you carefully remove this here, you also get the shaped card base. Now we had two of those colored panels cut to an A2 size shape, and now we're going to use the second panel. So go ahead and grab that large die that you just used to cut out the card base, and we're going to cut that out of the second colored A2 size panel. Now keep in mind for these panels, you're going to want one of like a panel that has a lighter tone, and you can use another panel with a darker tone for die cutting the centers of your flowers so that we can have a variation of color, or you can use ink like I'm going to do, so you just really need like the lighter tone. So I'll carefully remove that. Be careful not to tear this one because it is going to go on the front of the card. And now I'm going to take this piece, and I've got my rubber mat here that's used with my die cutting machine. I've got my hot foil plate, and I'm going to put this on top of the hot foil plate and then put this against the rubber mat. So the cardstock goes in between the hot foil plate and the rubber mat. Put that through your die cutting machine with an acrylic pad. Now I would also recommend spritzing it with a bit of water so you don't get your cardstock kind of ripping or tearing. I did have a little bit of that because I didn't do it, but you should do it to protect your cardstock. And I used the other side. So I used the I used the embossed side. The debossed side had a lot more kind of cracking in it. So you can see that like that print, that hot foil plate print comes out absolutely gorgeous. I do have another video on the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel not to forget to use your hot foil plates for embossing too, because the hot foil plates tend to have stunning designs, and you don't always need an embossing folder. If you have a rubber mat, you can definitely achieve this look very easily, as I just showed you. So keep in mind that I didn't show you how I did it with my die cutting machine. My die cutting machine's a bit too big, but I did, as I said, put that piece of cardstock in between the hot foil plate and the rubber mat, and then you might have to play with maybe a couple shims and then put it through with an acrylic pad and your die cutting base plate, or you might call that a platform. So moving along, I've got my card base all done. You can see that I put that that oval that we embossed onto the white card base that we cut into that shape, and then I also added the frame with some foam adhesive. Now I'm grabbing the wreath builder dies, and I'm cutting them out of the desired cardstock. So I've got all of the florals cut out of that light teal, and then I've got the leaves here cut out of a gray. Now I have this little sectional plate here that I kind of use to pull out all my die cuts. I normally use that, but in this case, you can see that all of the little cardstock pieces stayed in the dies, which I find is better for me because then I can kind of keep them together. Because the beauty of the set is that each of those sets, each die cuts out like maybe 3 or 4 pieces of the floral, and that means that that floral all goes together to make one flower. Now, if you weren't aware of that, I found that out and found it very helpful. So when you do cut out those florals, if you're cutting out one die, all of those pieces should go together to form that one floral. So what I'm doing here is I'm kind of taking them out one by one so I can kind of group those together and keep in mind what goes with what. Now I'm just adding some extra ink color. So I've got some emerald ink, which is deeper kind of greeny brown, I'm sorry, greeny teal, right? And I'm just darkening the centers of those florals there. So I'm darkening the center of the larger florals, and then you've also got the little pieces for the actual centers of the flowers. Those I'm completely covering in that emerald ink because I want the centers to have like a deeper look, so you get a bit of a gradient, and then that's how you kind of get the tone on tone effect. Well, besides actually using the same cardstock on top of each other, right? This just kind of makes the floral stand out a little bit more because then you get the depth because of the darker colors that we used by ink blending here. So as I said, I've kind of grouped these together and kind of kept them in mind. I used my little sectional once I took these off the sticky mat in order to keep them together. Alternatively, if you had little bowls and stuff like that, you could use that to keep all of the die cuts for one flower together so you don't confuse yourself. Now I'm just going to go ahead and start assembling these. You'll see I'm using the Crafty Meraki Bling Buddy, which I often like, especially for the smaller centers, to kind of pick them up and place them where I'd like them. I'm going to go ahead and put this together with liquid glue. I find that the liquid glue comes in handy. It gives me the option to kind of move things around before the glue sets. Now, if you wanted, you could go ahead. There's 2 portions or 2 little die cuts that go in the center for most of these flowers. You could cut one out of a different color. You can make the very center, those round rings, you can make them black if you wanted to create a little bit of contrast, and it would still keep that tone on tone look. So I'm just gonna quickly go ahead and attach all of these flowers. I think you get 5 flowers in the end, which is ideal because when you're putting together artistic creations, we normally use the rule of odds, and odd numbers of things tend to have a more aesthetically pleasing look. So those are all of my florals pretty much. I'll just go ahead and put the last one together here. I think this is the one that has the most layers. I think there's 5 layers, 2 for the center, 3 of the main flower. And again, you could follow the layering guide to make sure you're kind of positioning everything correctly, or you could just go ahead and put it together like I did. It still looks very pretty. You kind of get the idea of what it's going to look like, and your florals will always have a unique look. So now I'm grabbing the Gilded Greetings hot foil plate. I've got some of this nice teal or sea foamy type colored foil, and I'm just going to foil this plate. So I love the Gilded Greetings plate. 2 reasons why. One, it doesn't take that long to do. I can basically just foil this plate in one go. Put it on my hot foil plate, put it through my die cutting machine, look at all those sentiments, and then number 2, you can easily cut it out with the coordinating die, which cuts all of these sentiments out in one go as well. So you get a ton of sentiments in very little time. Sometimes what I like to do, I did this off camera because it's not really needed to be included in this video, but while I have this out and I have my hot plate hot, I'll grab a couple other foils, like a silver and a gold, which are a little more standard, and I can use them for a lot of cards, and I'll just foil that plate a few times and cut them out, and then just keep these to the side in a little container so that I can use it on projects and have quick sentiments ready to go. All right, so let's start putting this together. I've got one of the fronds here kind of just coming off the edge, and I've mainly attached it to that oval frame that we put on there. Now I have another frond and I'm kind of having it hang off the edge. You'll see that I'll attach it and then I'll cut off the edge of the leaf, and you're going to be like, what is it you're doing there? But if you just cut off that leaf, what I like to do is kind of stick it on the other side of the frame so it kind of extends the look of that frond, and it also places it in the background rather than the foreground. So I find that all of these little tricks really come in handy in giving your cards a unique look. So you can see that obviously that frond is behind the frame. Now you could have done this before you attach the frame, or you can cut it like I did, because I find that if you did attach it behind, you'd lose most of that leaf that's sticking out of the on the top of the frame there. So that this technique I like a little better. So from those gilded greetings that we cut out, I chose the thank you sentiment, and I've just stuck it on there with some more foam adhesive. Now I'll just add my flowers. So I'm going to add a grouping of 3 to the left of the sentiment and then 2 on the bottom right corner there. Now when it all kind of comes together, you can see that the gray and that teal looks really nice. It helps the teal stand out a little more. It really helps the flowers pop. So now I'll add those 2 other flowers on the bottom right there. And besides adding some bling, that generally finishes up this card. So I've got some black gems that I'm going to add to the centers of the flowers. And then I'm also going to add some stray gems along the background there. So I like to kind of just stick down my little glue dots using my liquid glue wherever I feel that I want them to go. And then I'm free to just use my bling buddy and just attach the gems wherever I'd like them. I find this technique works well for me rather than kind of holding the bottle and glue and then gem and then glue and then gem. So again, whichever technique works best for you is what you should basically use. And I hope that this idea it appeals to you and you'll want to create something like this yourself. Please let me know if you like this card in the comments, and everything that I've used in this video is linked within the description below. So don't forget to check out the store and like and subscribe to the Crafty Meraki channel, and I'll see you again next week. Bye!